Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnium video. Today we're going to do a character guide on Ferris. I actually like Ferris. I got a chance to use her a little bit last night when the event dropped, and I was pretty impressed with Ferris actually. The thing with Ferris is Ferris has always been like a really good debuffing and dispelling character, which is really good. But they really made Ferris nice in this upgrade because Ferris's problem was she always really lacked damage. Now, I'm not saying her damage is, like, insane, but it's, like, it's good enough damage for what she's doing, so they definitely upped her damage a lot here, which I like, and they made her follow-ups actually very good. Her follow-ups used to not be nearly as good, so Ferris is built in a way that she works really nice in, like, a very offensive type setup, but you can also use her in, like, an off-turn setup because of the way her force time works and the fact that she provides power-ups, right, or follow-ups, right? So, I was pretty impressed with her at first glance, so we'll see how she looks in this video here. Let's go ahead and start by looking at her calls. Ferris actually has very good calls, and Ferris is a character that the main reason I've had Ferris LD is because of her calls. So, she's a character, to me, that's like Jack or a Mid-Italian, where I've used them way more as a call than actually in party. This iteration of Ferris, I could see myself using her more in party than I ever have in the past, but there is still so much, like, insane power creep on these characters like Luna Freya and Core and Tifa. Like, I'm not sure how often I can squeeze Ferris in, but in the right situation, I think Ferris is actually a really solid character. So, the reason why her calls are so good is they were very good in Lufenia fights to help meet orb requirements. They can help you in pesky situations, especially those bosses that, like, want a lot of debuffs, right? So, her open fire basically can drop down 4 debuffs, and then also dispels all enemy buffs. So that is just, like, super good. Like, open fire is just a super good button to press. Very good on the call. And then the LD, similar thing where it just throws down a bunch of debuffs, and it does a bunch of elemental damage as well. And you can see Ferris actually carries 3 different elements. Primarily, Ferris is a water damage dealer, but she also has some lightning and wind in this combo attack, essentially. And then she does put elemental resist down for all 3 elements on the enemy, which is pretty cool, right? But really, Ferris's open fire is like the main call that's like super good there, right? So yeah, Ferris, very good call, right? All right, so let's go ahead and hop in to Ferris herself and start taking a look here. So let's look at artifacts and past spheres here. Artifacts are very easy. Ferris is an older character, so you just want the standard attack 108, max brave 330. That's really just the way you want to go there. Pretty basic, pretty easy. And then on spheres, I do have some particular ones that I really like on Ferris. And I do feel like I have kind of like, pretty much like the main idea of what I like to do with a character like Ferris on these, right? So, in the A slot, you just want attack and brave damage. Now, Ferris does have a mixed kit in terms of like melee and ranged attack, so it's not good to just put like a melee sphere on or just a ranged sphere, so I would kind of avoid those. But Ferris is a weakness damage character, and on weakness damage characters, I like Rydia. She's attack and brave damage on a character that you want those stats on. I feel like Rydia's a pretty good A slot there, right? Now on the E slot, pretty much if you have a weakness damage character, like your best E slot is like without doubt probably going to be Pain. And this is you could stack 2 Pains if you do like a refined one and a regular one. So if you like really love Ferris is your favorite character, and you want like best in slot Ferris, I would probably put 2 Pain Spheres on, but you have to do a regular one and then a refined one, because you see here right on my refined one, it says does not stack with the same sphere. But I've said this in other videos, a full sphere and a refined sphere, the game considers those actually 2 different spheres. You just can't put 2 of her refined or 2 of her full ones on, it won't stack, but those would stack, right? Because Pain's not stackable, I didn't want to invest a full Pain sphere. Something like Fujin or Reno is actually really good here. So the thing with Ferris is a debuff, and she uses up a lot of debuff slots, right? So any of these characters that do a lot of debuffs, you don't want a sphere that's going to add another debuff to that, because you don't want to clog it up. But Fujin and Reno, their E slots are actually auras. So they'll do a debuff essentially without using a debuff slot. And with all of the debuffing that Ferris does, right? Ferris doesn't have any speed down. So I like Fujin because on top of all of these crazy debuffs Ferris is doing, we are now adding speed down to the mix. Now, the only thing you have to be cautioned with speed down is if you're using Ferris in like one of those defense counter teams with a lot of off-turn damage, you may not want the speed down because you actually want the enemies to go faster. So if you're going to be running Ferris in those type of team comps, maybe go with a different sphere there. But I like Fujin there for that, just that aura speed down, right? So that's kind of what I got there. Let's go ahead and we are going to hop into the showcase here. Now my Ferris, same thing happened with Ferris that happened on Lude. I was actually skipping, and I'm kind of glad the game gave me the luck and gave me the force weapon, because I am really liking Ferris, right? I'm sure we'll just grab a random friend here. Don't really care. Let's hop in. So I got Ferris because Ferris's banner was the exact same as Lude for me in that I had everything on the banner. All I needed was the FR. Lude I was going to skip. They dropped the FR on my free multi. Ferris, same thing. Had everything but Ferris FR. Gave it to me on my free multi. So the game has just been gifting me these last two. So I have Ferris FR. It is not maxed. So you're going to see a very kind of gimped version of the FR, but I can still show you the attack. I will tell you what the maxed FR stats would be so that you guys can get a feel of that, right? So I am bringing Garnet here instead of Lunafreya, only because I want to showcase with a little bit of off-turn here. So Garnet has a little bit of off-turn and Core does off-turn, and I want to be able to showcase a little bit of off-turn because that does work into Ferris's force a little bit, right? Let's go and pop this, sure. So Ferris is one of these characters that jumps off with a free skill use free turn, and they get back-to-back turns. They typically do this with these Final Fantasy V characters because they have the upgradable skills. So basically their skill will just be a normal version, and then they upgrade to like a 3-star version after just using it once. And so Ferris falls into that. So they give Ferris a couple of turns right away to set that up. Now, what I recommend you do is I like to start with open fire. Now, the enemies start with all the debuffs. You can see like they just have a bunch of debuffs right away. I will just tell you this in total. Ferris does an attack down. So like if you have all of Ferris's good buffs on, she's doing attack down 70%, max brave down 30%, defense down 70%, a poison, and then another debuff called Enchanting Dance, which gives 3 elemental resist down for thunder, wind, and water. So 3 different imperils. And then brave damage dealt minus 20% to the enemy. And then it will basically reset the enemy's brave to 0. Which is really, really nice. So like basically they can have a bunch of brave and it will just like kind of like sap them down to 0 brave in between turns. So that's a lot of debuffs. So that's 5 debuff slots, right? Right there. So you can see we've got a lot of debuff slots filled there. Now open fire, what open fire does, let's go and pop it. Now this is the normal version, and then it will go to the plus version once we've used it once. So it upgrades really quick. So there's the normal version of open fire. So what this does is it's just a AoE water attack basically. And then what it does is it does a max brave down, and then there's an attack down, defense down, and poison, but it only has a 50% chance to proc. Okay. What's going to happen is now we've got the plus version of open fire. So let's just do the plus version since I have it. Now with the plus version, it's going to do all the same stuff, except with the plus version, that does a dispel on all enemy buffs. So it's just an enemy-wide buff dispel, which is really, really good, right? Now you saw the Enchanting Dance there, and you're going to see Whirlpool. So that follow-up is going to happen anytime the enemies take an action, and that Enchanting Dance is what sets their brave to 0. That's coming from the EX and LD. So I'll talk about those when I get to those buttons, but just know that that's where those are coming from, okay? Core, of course we want to do it on Ferris, right? So anyways, so with the plus version of open fire where I was talking about there, the plus version dispels all enemy buffs, and then on the attack down, defense down, and poison, instead of a 50% chance to proc, it actually goes up to 80%, right? Now, Ferris doesn't have to worry about any of that because of another buff I'll talk about on the 15, which we'll show off next. Let's go ahead and do the EX here for Core, and get Core set up, and then we're going to go ahead and get Garnet to go. The one thing with Ferris is a bit slow. You see, we're getting a few turns with our other characters before Ferris gets to come up again, which is fine. The nice thing with Ferris being slow is it allows her traps to go off a lot, right? So she does work in an off-turn team comp very well, actually. You could use her with like that Gao Gladio setup, And I think she would actually work pretty well in that spot. I'm sure we'll keep it on Ferris. And then not to mention that Ferris is putting all these potent debuffs on, which if you're running a defense comp, you're already mitigating brave damage and HP damage. You're now crippling the enemy's ability to do damage anymore through all of the debuffs, right? So it's going to make your team feel tankier. And with the extra off turn there, that's going to go in to say like a Reno or a Core Force Time and still help deal damage, right? Very, very good. Okay, so we'll let these enemies go, and once again, you can see the enchanting dance going off. You see the whirlpools hitting, and see those whirlpools. This is why I was like so impressed with Ferris when I used her last night. Those whirlpools, like 500k shots with 150k overflow, and this is by no means a maxed out Ferris, right? This is Force Enhanced 10, base Lufenia armor, not even plus, and only like the base force weapon. So I could have the force weapon maxed, I could have blue armor, I could go up to an ultimate weapon. So I think Ferris is one of those characters like right now I'm not investing in, but if I get extra materials, I might actually like full upgrade Ferris, because I'm actually very much enjoying Ferris. I think she's super cool, and she fills a great niche, which you need, which is can put debuffs on and dispel, which are very valuable in this game. Very valuable skills to have, right? All right, so let's look at Water Whirl next. So Water Whirl is the 15. Now this is more single targets, okay? So Open Fire is your AoE. Water Whirl is single target. Now this is just the base Water Whirl, right? But look at that. That was 800 something K. Like, dude, that was pretty good for Ferris, right? Like, for not being a damage dealer, we just did 800k on the 15. Well, that's good. Okay, so once again, by no means a maxed out Ferris. Ferris looking pretty good here. I'm impressed, right? So what Water Whirl did was it just did that single target water attack. It does have some splash with it though. And then what we get with that is two very important buffs. So one buff is the Pirate Way. So this is attack 40% up and then HP damage up 30%, which is huge, right? And then max brave speed, and then overflow up, water enchant. And then the other buff is called enfeeblement up. Well, what this does is it gives her debuffs 100% chance to proc. So those debuffs I talked about on Open Fire, they're going to hit 100%. So really with Ferris, you can just count on those always being up, because you're probably going to upkeep that enfeeblement. So the way you play Ferris, I would get Open Fire out right of the way, and then basically once you have that plus, you can just kind of bounce between the 15 and 35 on filler turns just to upkeep your buffs. Use the LD when you need it, use the X when it pops up, and once again I'm going to talk about those when I get there. We haven't done that yet. Let's do Water Whirl plus, just to show that off here. Let's see, yeah, 880k with 5. That is so powerful. Like, that Water Whirl is hitting hard, you guys. Oh gosh, I kind of want to upgrade Ferris already, man. That's super solid. Like, those are not bad numbers, because Ferris is, I'm telling you right now, Ferris is not a damage dealer, and those are good numbers for a utility type character that we've got here. Now, yes, we're making Ferris look really good by having Garnet and Core on the team, but what kind of team comps are y'all running? You're running Luna Freya, Garnet, Core. Like, this is what people are running. You're gonna be making your characters look good, right? Like, so it's not like we're just dressing Ferris up here. Like, these are real characters you want to use in your party, and Ferris is looking pretty darn good. Once again, with those darn near 500k, off-turn attacks, like that match, like part of what made Garnet so busted is you saw Garnet's follow-up there, right? Garnet's follow-up is once every 4 actions, and that did like 470k. Well, Ferris is putting up 450k every time the enemy acts. That's going to proc a lot more, especially against aggressive enemies. So I think what I'm going to do, because I've got a Shinryu fight recorded for the current one where I just blow it up with Tifa, right? I think I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do like my Gao Gladio Core setup, but I'm going to sub one of them for Ferris, and I'm going to try Ferris in that off-turn team, and I'm going to run this Shinryu. And I want to blow it up with that team too, so I think I'm going to do 2 Shinryu runs here, because I really want to show off Ferris, because I think Ferris is looking really, really nice here. I think Ferris is one of those characters that is going to fall under the radar, not because she's bad, because as I'm seeing here, I'm seeing a very good character. I think it's just, you get overshadowed when characters like Luna Freya, Selphie, Tifa, and Renoa exist all within your window, right? Like, those are insane meta-defining characters that exist within your window. So I don't blame anyone for overlooking Ferris or not recommending Ferris. But hopefully what you're seeing in this video is Ferris is quite good, right? So now the enemies here, thankfully, have some buffs on. So we can show off some dispelling here, right? So we definitely want to do that. Okay. So, well, so what I could do is I could pop open fire right now and it would dispel them, but we got to show off some other attacks. And Ferris is slow, and I didn't bring Rem here to pull Ferris up because I wanted to show with the off turn, right? But let's go ahead and pop the EX here and see that. So the EX is where Ferris gets the overhead from. So that's that little Leviathan dragon head that you're seeing over her head. Let's see how much damage this does, by the way. I'm really curious. All right, we're getting a launch with it, so we're getting a little bit extra damage here. But how much is that doing? Wow, 1.85. Yeah, okay. The right enemy with that 1.1 mil, that's good. So we're doing 1 mil AoEs with the EX? Ferris is, like, legitimately good. I'm sorry. This is, like, I don't know. Like, these numbers are actually kind of blowing me away because you do not expect these types of numbers out of Ferris. Like I said at the beginning, Ferris's weakness was always that she lacked damage, but her utility has always been great. But we always used her for the calls so we could get the utility without eating up the party slot. This is a character that's not eating up a party slot. Like, she is helping the team in more ways than one. Loving Ferris. Okay, we'll just get through the turns quick here. So, on the EX, I should continue to explain that, by the way. But basically, we're getting the overhead. Now, this is basically a elemental attack of all three elements. So that basically, if they are weak to the water, thunder, or wind, it's going to be weakness damage there, right? So then what happens is that's what allows the whirlpool follow-up. So as long as Ferris has turns on her overhead, the enemies are getting those whirlpools after their actions, right? And this is great, right? The enemies are aggressive. They're taking additional turns, which is why I want to run that off-turn team comp again, right? And you see those whirlpools are just putting in work with the damage, right? Putting in work. So, all right, so let's go ahead. I'm thinking what'll happen is Ferris will probably take Gauss slot on that team. Because because I'm going to want to have Core's FR going. Now, if I had Ferris's maxed FR, I could actually sub Core out and leave Gao in. And just, like, ride Ferris's FR. But I think for that video, I think we're going to do Core's FR, probably sub out Gao. Because I really want to have Gladio, I'm thinking, to soak up any potential damage we might take. The one thing is that we wouldn't be getting the healing. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I could just bring healing calls, but I feel like with Gladio, like, we're just not going to take damage anyways. And those whirlpools, look at them. They're putting in work, right? And their weakness damage, very, very good. All right, so let's, so we do have FR up, but we haven't shown the LD yet. So let's go ahead. Well, that FR is going to go so fast it won't matter. So, here's the AA debuff attack up. Basically, it does some generic buffs and increases your damage against debuff targets. And look, the enemies jump turns. That's fine. Let's watch them take some whirlpool damage. We'll take those. Sure, eat the whirlpool damage. There you go. I'm definitely due to debuff them, but like I said, Ferris is slow and I want to get through the attacks. I don't want this showcase to be super long, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. Yep, additional turn. You can take it. Yep. Whirlpool up. Alright, so let's do the LD here. So, the LD is Spellblade Sword Dance. So let's pop this off here. This is also going to be triple elements. And this is going to, I believe this will also imperil the enemies to those elements, right? Okay, so pretty good damage, right? Like a mil AoE there. So basically what this does, we'll let the enemies go here and do their thing while I explain it. But this basically will put all of the debuffs that were from the open fire, but they're guaranteed. So even if you don't have that enfeeblement up buff up, it'll 100% proc all of the debuffs. It also adds Enchanting Dance debuff. So the Enchanting Dance debuff is the one that imperils to all three elements, and then does the thing where it resets their brave to 0. So it'll always say like, blah, 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 due to Enchanting Dance at the top, and then their brave just goes down to 0. So that's why they're like getting so, they're getting so jacked on their brave, we're just eating it up with that, right? So let's go ahead and sure, we'll just Aquamarine. And then we're going to go in the FR time here. Yeah, just keep taking turns. Man, I got to get the FR up because, yeah, these guys are eating turns. Now, my FR isn't going to build up, like, at all because it's a very weakened FR. So the thing when you don't max out your FR, one is you only get 5 turns instead of 10. and then you get like basically half of the percentages. So it's like you barely can build up the HP gauge. So pretty much if you're going for an FR, you want to max it out, right? Now, I definitely will max out Ferris's FR. I just got to wait for some high power stones to come my way. I'm going to hold off for now because I need to make sure I can max Renoa right away. Once I've got Renoa maxed out, then I will confidently get Ferris's maxed out because I'm loving Ferris right now. Absolutely. Potentially might splurge and blue the armor too. Because I am working on the Ultima Dagger. Ultima Dagger was actually my first Ultima weapon I maxed, but you know, once Lock kind of became less relevant because I maxed it for Lock, then I sold it off and like went into other weapons, right? Which I like that they let you do that once a month. You can kind of trade in a weapon, get one that's more relevant. I think that's a very good thing that they've done. Now the enemies are getting 500 turns here. Thankfully, with our Enchanting Dance and our Whirlpools, like the enemies can't hold Brave. So we're getting, you know, we're not getting hurt here, which is good. We're getting very well protected. So even though they're taking a bunch of turns, they're kind of doing their thing here, yep. And of course, they're in force time now, which is why they're going like really crazy right now. I believe our force time will cancel it out. I believe their cancellation is just entering a force time with water damage, which is obviously what Ferris is going to do, right? But you can see, yeah, this is going to be a fun fight with the off turn because these guys steal a lot of turns. We can get Core's FR gauge up quite high, methinks. Quite high. All right. Oh, sure. Let's just do... It's been a hot minute since I've used the Garnet EX. Let's just use that. Get some Alexander in the video, right? Sure. Oh, and you know what? My core has had Reaper's Gale up probably like forever, and I haven't been using it, which is fine, because I'm just like wanting to get through the turns, right? But during Force, maybe I'll pop a Reaper's Gale here. But yeah, like every time I go, the enemies are both taking turns. So it's taking us a little bit of time here to get back to Ferris, but we just want to get into that Force time, right? I suppose I can start explaining the Force time as we wait to get to that turn. Oh, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze here. I am still sick. I'm actually going back to the doctor tomorrow. Taking another day off of work. This bronchitis has just been rough. My cough has gotten way worse lately. Luckily, my voice is for the most part holding up, but my voice hasn't been 100% since like early September. Like, it's been a hot minute since I've had a full normal voice. We'll get there. All right, we're going to just skip this. Okay. All right, so finally, Ferris's Force. And I do not remember who the Force partner is. Let's pop it here. Shiver your timbers. Oh, that's right, Waka, sure. The Whirlpool. That's right, and Ferris is even going to do a kick here. Little blitzball shot. Nice. All right, so we got the Force time up. So let's talk about what's happening here. So that also removed their buffs. So you can see their buffs just, like, gone, right? Very, very good. We wiped their Force time out. All that good stuff, right? So we removed all their buffs, did the big attack. During Ferris's Force time, it is water enchanting the party, so the party's guaranteed going to do water damage, right? Now, Ferris has a few conditions. One is it's 5% for doing water damage on your turn, and then 5% for doing off-turn water damage, right? So this is actually pretty good. I would say it's kind of similar to like a core Force time, because as long as your off-turns are non-elemental, you're going to be enchanting them for water. So essentially, your off-turns are doing 5%, which is what core does, right? So then basically, all these follow-ups, all these off-turns, you're getting 5% tick, 5% tick, 5% tick. And we've seen that with core, that really, really adds up. And then, just for attacking a debuff target, you get 5% per debuff up to 40%. So as long as the enemies are like full of debuffs, you're going to get another 40% on that. Now that's a little bit trickier because enemies can push debuffs off. If they're very aggressive, which is what you want in an off turn, the debuffs could fall off. So you want to kind of keep those debuffs flowing and keep them full of debuffs. So for that, I do like Core's better because he doesn't have that necessary restriction that you need the debuffs. But with the off turn 5%, like that's very, very good, right? So let's go ahead and do some attacks. So let's do a Reaper Scale. So this should be water damage on turn per buff. Now once again, my percentages are going to be way low. Just because, yeah, so 17%, that seems about right, because mine's like cut in half, right? Because I have a very weak version of the Force. Now let's go ahead and just do this. We'll hit up Ferris again. And then this will be good because we'll see some off turn, and hopefully, and my off turns are only 2% because I don't have it maxed out. It should be 5, but it's only 2. Okay, so we got a little bit there. Okay, and then Garnet, sure, we'll do water damage, that's what they want. So Garnet, you do want to pick the water attack. Okay, got 24 on that. Immaculate Judgment off turn, there we go. We take those. We take those, yep, for sure. All right, and then on these water worlds, see that, yep, see, there's the off turn for core. And then we should get off turn. Yep, there's another off turn right there. And then we should see the water world. Yep, enchanting dance, whirlpool. Yep, then another off turn tick there, right? Eternal darkness, is that off turn tick too? Yep, that tick too. So you can see all these off turns are ticking. And once again, it's going to be 5% instead of 2. So that's going to build up, right? That's going to be really, really good. So, and we'll just kind of end with this. Watch the enemies just tick it up. Look at all the turns. Look at all the turns. The enemies are just going to tick it up. And once again, if this was a full one, like, I would be going through the roof because I'm only getting 2% instead of 5. I kind of wish I had the full force for this. But there you go, guys. There's Ferris. Very good. I'm really impressed with Ferris. And I'm not just saying that because I'm not trying to like convince you to summon for her. I'm just evaluating the character and saying I'm pretty damn impressed. And I think Ferris is a very good character. I definitely not a must pull, right? Like your must pulls are Tifa. Excuse me, man. Oh God, that sneeze was just waiting to come out. Your must pulls this month are like Tifa, Renoa. I would say one of the two. You don't have to get both. And then obviously like the Luna Freya. I think Selfie would be a must pull, but you can get her pretty easily on the friend list. And like her banner, they put her on the banner with the wrong BT, so that's not necessarily a must pull. But yeah, Tifa, Renoa, those are the type of ones where it's like, yeah, you got to get one. But I'm just telling you right now, if you get Ferris, or if you maybe have Ferris' stuff and haven't powered her up, she's worth it, man. She's like, just look at this. We're having fun here. You know, with my severely gimped force time, even pushing up over 200% like this is actually pretty impressive. Because we are literally getting less than half of the percentages that I should be. So, anyways, let me know what you guys all think of Ferris. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.